So we have quite a variety of things going on this afternoon. Now I think it's going to get very, in a way, biographical or practical. As you know from reading Discipleship in the New Age, DK had some 50 students, some of whom he worked with for about 17 years even. And he wrote them letters periodically, every 6 months, every year, occasionally every 2 years. And he really developed the practical ray science in talking about their lives, how they could apply the 7 rays, and astrology was implied in that. By the way, I want to know how many of you feel you are relatively new to astrology? Relatively new. Because here's the thing. Yeah, well, I know, Nicholas raises his hand, but from a different perspective, I think. He's thinking about the astrological department of hierarchy. So tonight, Jan Dietrich will be happy to take some of the people who are newer to astrology and give you some of the fundamentals, because some of the presentations tonight are perhaps a bit technical, and this would be a good chance for a few of you who need more of the foundation to go with Jan. There's Jan, sitting there. So who would want to be given or offered some of the fundamentals of astrology, thinks you could benefit from that? The fundamentals is the, Jan, what do we mean by fundamentals?
I think it has to do with all of the basic information, you know, how you can size a chart up pretty quickly and put things together more simply. It's you know, there's 36 components, and how do they work together?
I would say that at 7 o'clock, those who want to go with Jan, just meet right out here, and you'll go over to one of the rooms off the lobby, okay? I trust there won't be so many, because tonight will be very interesting, you know, also. But like I say, in some specific instances, relying a fair bit on knowing some technical astrology, so I would suggest that this is a good opportunity. Well, now we do have a practical presentation. This is on the disciples CDP. You know, all those disciples were given keynote names by the Tibetan, and Elena will explain her approach to this particular disciple, who was most interesting disciple, and we can begin now. We're very happy to have Elena. She's done a lot of research on the disciples rectified, a lot of the disciples chart, and I think done a very good job with that. And this will be the moment for us to get into the psychology, ray and astrological, of one of the important disciples. They're all important in a way, most interesting from the 6-ray perspective. Are you wired, Elena? Or
I am wired.
You are wired. Okay, very good.
Thank you, Michael. Okay. Now, as you can see, this disciple has 6, it's a woman. She has 6 rays conditioning her on 3 levels. Very unusual. And she was the only disciple to have these positions. And that is 6-ray personality, 6-ray astral body, and very rare indeed, 6-ray physical body. Okay? She was 2nd-ray soul with a 5th-ray mind. So you see, almost we see 2, 6, 6, 6, and in the middle is number 5. If that was not there, we don't know where she would be flying. Okay, now, for those of you who are interested to go deeper into the instruction of this disciple, you find it in DINA 1, 504 to 531. And also, I have done the work on this disciple some years ago, and it is on Makara website. But since then, my knowledge has moved forward. So I am presenting a lot of new ideas in this presentation. And because, you know, I have very little time, I will try to focus only on certain points. Each disciple had 3 key notes, which were their development formulas. And they were capitalized by the letters, the capital letters, like for her, C, courage, D, detachment, and P, pure love. Okay? And out of these 3 keynotes, there was always one which was the primary focus for that life of the disciple. And for this disciple, it was the first one, courage. Okay? Now, I would like to sort of tell you that before we look at the chart, and any chart at all, we need to know who we're dealing with. Otherwise, the whole reading or interpretation would be off focus. Okay? So prior to looking at the chart, we need to establish, hypothetically or as far as we can, where this disciple was. And because we have a lot of help from Master DK, who is telling us more or less where she is and giving us some clues, we need to first know approximately where she was. If we don't know a person who comes to us, what do we do? In order, before we look at the chart to know where this person is in consciousness, that we meet that level of consciousness through the interpretation, where upon the path approximately that person is, what do we do? And DK give us a clue what we do. We need to know the person psychologically. And what is psychology? The race. And he suggests we at least establish the soul ray and the personality ray around which we try to interpret the chart. Okay? So it is not an easy thing to do, as you can realize. And here we have a master who has given us the rays, which are 100% correct. And we have the instructions, which are giving us the steps and the ideas where this disciple was. And so she was moving through the early stages of the path of discipleship, where we find what DK calls the average disciple. And this is the stage of probationary discipleship, which starts with the first initiation, fixed cross, up to the middle point between the first and second initiation, from where the accepted discipleship start. So the average disciple covers 2 stages: accepting disciple and a pledged disciple. And she was the pledged disciple. He makes that very clear. She had the undaunted, what he called undaunted persistence, which is the hallmark of the pledged disciple. And persistence is the quality of the 6th ray and the sign of Sagittarius. And in this chart, particularly a sign of Sagittarius is related to the stage of pledged disciple, because the persistence is the quality which is very much needed prior to direct acceptance and becoming accepted disciple. Thus, we find the pledged disciple prior to accepted discipleship. Now, if we look at this chart and we say, okay, what we find in Sagittarius? In Sagittarius, do we see the Jupiter? What system are you using here, BL? Could we have it Placidus division?
Sure.
Thank you. You see, we can use various division of system of division of the chart. And this is the very important point here. Here we have a Sagittarius, right? And the planet which is in Sagittarius is Jupiter, which is her second ray soul planet. A pledged disciple who has the second ray planet of the soul in Sagittarius. Now, her sun sign is Aries, and in which decanate of Aries happened to be that sun? In Sagittarian decanate of Aries, together with Chiron, conjuncting the sun. Okay? Now, we have the Vulcan here, which you put it in there, but I don't, because we don't know where exactly it is. But
Elena, I did my magic on it. It's at roughly.
I know it is in Aries.
Roughly correct.
I know it is in Aries.
Okay, I did my magic. It's at 26, 25. What we do.
Thank you. But I knew it is still in Aries.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you see, we are trying to find the Sagittarian six-ray energy, which the pledged disciple has to have astrologically pretty strong, emphasized, right? So we have that Jupiter second ray. We have the Sun, Aries, and Chiron, very important planet to consider in esoteric interpretation. Then, when we come to the Leo, is Uranian energy, very important for this disciple in the process of detachment, and that is in Sagittarian decanate of Leo. Okay? And so in the triplicity of the fire sign, where we would find the Sagittarian energy, all the important planets are placed in Sagittarian decanates. Okay? The other sign of persistence, where we find the quality of persistence, is Taurus. Okay? Neptune, her esoteric ruler of Cancer, is in Taurus. Pluto, and very important planet in relation to her moon in Scorpio, test it's in a critical degree of Taurus, 29. We all know that, you know, Taurian energy is rather slow and prodding, but very persistent. It keeps on, right? It never gives up. And Vulcan, the esoteric ruler of Taurus, it's in Aries, a very powerful first-ray energy which adds to the fiery, persistent aspiration forward. Okay? Now, we also have a strong 9th house, which is the Sagittarian house, by the placement of Saturn, which is the most elevated planet conjuncting the Dharma in Pisces. So, you know, it doesn't mean we have to be born in Sagittarius or have Sagittarius rising to be a pledged disciple and have a persistence, quality of persistence. It's coming from other direction. Yes?
Maybe we need to establish something about the basis of the horoscope in terms of location, timing. If you're using the houses, can you say something about that?
You mean how the houses are divided?
Yeah, I mean, where did we get the time from and
Okay,
location?
well, I didn't want to go into it because I should mention we only had the information of the date. We had no information of place of birth and no time of birth. Okay? So I have rectified this chart on the basis, which is all explained in the Makara in detail, how I rectified this chart, that we have taken the place of birth by the address of one of her members of family, okay, which was Greenville, Delaware. And the time, I have rectified the time by the instructions purely, okay? And as we go into the chart, we will discover that Cancer was the energy which was the major motivating energy of her chart, together with Pisces and Scorpio. It means this triangle of energies what was conditioning her incarnation. That's why even the 12th house had to be emphasized to add further Piscean energy there, because she spent major time of her focus on the inner planes, astral and mental. She worked mainly on mental planes, but as DK say, you have made many trips to the astral plane too. And we are not surprised with Pisces and Cancer particularly to be psychically orientation towards the astral plane. She actually had the astral buddhic line. Is that answer sufficiently? Thank you. Now, in the life of the pledged disciple, must be present two things mainly. The destruction of desire. Taurus, the most powerful sign of desire, is present in this chart. Moon in Scorpio, fall of desire. Mars in Taurus, detriment of desire. Okay? And Pluto in Taurus, severing of desire. From a different planets, we have an emphasis that the desire should be going down. And this is one of the tests of the second initiation. When we make the close study of desire and will, which is in relation to Taurus, with the Pluto here in Aries, which had such a powerful first ray will, you know, we see that they alternate as the consciousness rises. And the second point, which the pledge disciple has to deal with, is to sever or cut all personality ties. And this lady was so emotionally tied to her family and to her children that she could not see wider than that focus. This was her major problem. DK emphasized to her, your major problem is to achieve detachment from your emotional ties to the people you love, because you see them as a personality and not as a souls. You are not helping them in any way, and you are not helping yourself, because you are not working, you're not seeing them as a soul. You're treating them as a personality, and your love is a personality love, not soul love. Okay? Now, this is the major conditioning T-square in her chart. Mars in Pisces, square, the conjunction of Venus, Mars in the 12th house, and that opposition to the Jupiter and square, Jupiter square Saturn. That is a major conditioning energy, energies, and particularly in relation to the ascendant, the soul purpose, where the Mars has its fall because it's exalted in Capricorn, so it has its fall here. Saturn, ruler of Capricorn, and a Capricorn decanate where the Mars is in Taurus, it's in its detriment in Cancer. Jupiter, her sole ruler planet, is exalted in Cancer. So we have a powerful relationship through this T-square to the most important energy, and that is the ascending Cancer energy. Family, family ties, family relationships, that's Cancer. Okay? Now, you know, we have also when we're placing somebody upon the path, we have a different divisions in DINA 1 where DK is talking about the 6 stages of discipleship. Now, these stages are not exactly aligned to the initiatory process. And so, where would we find the pledged disciple in relation to these 6 stages? And she is in the Cella in the light. Cella in the light, there were number of disciples in that stage between the first and second initiation. This is a stage where we find a disciple who is occupied with overcoming of glamour, which she was, with the control of emotional reaction, and working with light and vision. Okay? Now, there is one point we must also remember, that Kama Manas, or the desire mind, is found after the first initiation. It does not disappear. We find it particularly in this stage of probationary disciple, pledged disciple, accepting disciple. Okay? Because, you know, when DK say about the second degree initiate, what title does he give? He calls him first probationary disciple, probationary initiate, but interestingly, Kama Manasik initiate. And the reason, we must know the reason why is he doing that. Because the initiate at second degree is ready overcome the kama manas. Kama manas is the fifth subplane of astral plane. Okay? And it's a quality of Venus. This is her kama manas here. Desire, mind. That's one aspect. There is another one. Desire, mind. Saturn in Pisces. Okay? So, and kama manas produces glamour. Because problem of glamour is found when the mental illusion is intensified by desire. It is the illusion of the astral plane, basically. Okay? And so kama manas disappear when there is no desire for form or personality. And if we really want to say the complete disappearance of kama manas, we might go as far as the fourth degree, and that's why we find the relationship between the second and fourth initiation. I have to skip a lot of things because I can see if I'm going to continue like this, I will not do what I want to do. You see, this is the disciples, for those of you who are a little bit familiar, who has built the garden on the mental plane, where she was, and the purpose why DK asked her to build this garden was, the major purpose, is to develop her ajna and the directing and controlling energy of ajna. And so she had to develop and use the creative imagination and the power to visualize, to build the garden. And she had excellent energies to do that, particularly Piscean and Cancerian and six ray in relation to Neptune and to the astral plane, where we find imagination as her major agent to build the garden, the second subplane of the astral plane, where we find imagination. Okay? Oh, you know, I'm just trying to. Okay, she was guided towards the accepted discipleship, which I said it starts from the middle point between the first and second degree, where the disciple faces the real tests. From that point, that's where we start to face the real test for the second initiation. And the first initiation always precedes the accepted discipleship. And the battlefield for the man who is nearing accepted discipleship is primarily that of glamour. And what was her major test? Major test was that of detachment. She had to learn it through the family life, Cancer. Ruler of Cancer test, Scorpio. Moon in Scorpio, right? Children, ties to her children, fifth house, where the moon in Scorpio is found, was a major issue. The second area through which she had to learn the detachment was financial circumstances, strong Taurus, okay? Again, I don't want to go to the detail here. Now, and health. 6th house, 12th house polarity, Pisces, Virgo polarity, it's all health issues. And relationship of Chiron towards the sun, she had no confidence, okay? Chiron always lower energies of the self-expression or the quality of the planets which it contacts. She suffered from etheric devitalization, Chiron opposition Earth, which ruled the spleen, which is actually in a Gemini decade of Libra, and Gemini is the major energy of the etheric body. Now, she was materially very well off because she came from a rich family. She had no occupation or career, this lady. And this was a major problem and blockage in her spiritual journey. Because DK is telling her, you know, if you had some major area of focusing of your energy, it would help you so much to deal with your problems. But her major focus was a detail, a moment, and that was her child, her family, and all the rest was blocked, very limited vision. She had to expand the vision from the soul towards her material plane and emphasize the soul behind the form, particularly in her family. You know, the Taurian energy not only emphasized the finances, but overindulgence. The appetites are very powerful here, particularly with the Mars in Taurus, you know, and opposition the Jupiter in the 6th house, which excess of appetites on all levels. But she was very kind, very sharing. She shared her resources, helped financially Alice Bailey and the work of the Tibetan himself. And he is saying that these circumstances, like the family life, financial circumstances, and health, were put into her path as a staging around which she was struggling for liberation from the hold of the powerful 6th-ray forces, through which they had a hold of her life for the past 3 incarnations. Just imagine that. And her soul has chosen the 4th incarnation on purpose for her to get rid of the hold of the 6th ray, but staging a very difficult test in order to achieve that. And she failed in achieving the sole purpose. Neptune, ruler of ascendant. And he told her that prior to her death. It was 1.5 years, 2 years prior her death. He said that plainly. And that is another confirmation of, you know, she failed to achieve the detachment from the emotional ties to her family, which was the major blockage, and her children. And those people she loved closely around her. Because, you know, we are told that upon the path of discipleship, the forces of our lower nature, which is the physical, emotional, and mental, must be studied in relation to those with whom the destiny, karma, and our vocational choice bring us into contact. That is our major battlefields. So he's saying to her that these were the opportunities offered by her soul, and if she used them rightly, she would put her feet. Now this reference can be interpreted, you know, in different way, but we need to understand who we're dealing with. When he said, you know, if she rightly used these opportunities, she would put her feet upon the path of initiation. Now, we need to now think very carefully. A pledged disciple taking the final test, he says, to enter the path of accepted discipleship. And now he is telling her, if she deal with all these opportunities given rightly and achieve that detachment, she would put her feet upon the path of initiation. Now, here we have the point that even though the path of initiation is technically related to the third degree, we put our feet on it at second degree. That's why we find there the probationary disciple who, like the probationary disciple, have to go through probationary period, which is much longer. Then the probationary initiate has to go through probationary initiatory process in order to prove he is an initiate at the third degree. So this reference relates to the second initiation as a path of discipleship, as a path of initiation where it really starts. Okay? Now, if she could, he's telling her, if you can achieve detachment and arrive at a stable, focused mind, your whole life would simplify. Now, DK never uses any words by accident or random. And you know, the word simplicity, DK is saying to her that initiation is simplification. Where do we find simplicity? Simplicity we find in a triad. You see? That's why DK is using the word because simplicity starts in a Buddhic plane and continues in the Atmic plane. They are the higher spiritual correspondences of Kama Manas. Kama, Buddha, Buddhic plane, Manas, Atma. There is a relationship here from the lower to the higher. And that's why he uses the word simplicity, which is giving us a clue that we are arriving towards the more conscious expression, not only of the Atmic will, but also of the Buddhi at the second degree. Even it is anchored, both of these energies are anchored at the first initiation. We start to a little bit more consciously express them only at the second degree. Because at the second degree is the emergence of the chaos, of the astral mental mind. And the fourth degree, in relation to the second, where the initiate is leaving the form behind, the complete elimination of the Kama Manas, okay? And achieving the conscious expression of the Buddhi, because she had the astral Buddhic connection to arrive to the triad. And this is hinting to us, you know, she's in front also at the second degree, but she first had to pass the test of fear, Scorpio moon. And it's a classic placement of moon. We have 3 decanads, which represents each decanate of 10 degrees represents 3 tests prior to each initiation. And the middle decade, where we have the placement of the moon, is the astral body. And we have 3 tests. Anybody know the 3 tests of astral body in relation to Scorpio? What are they?
Fear,
Fear,
separativeness,
hate,
separativeness,
comfort.
oh, no, that's.
Oh, ambition, sorry. I am, yes. Thank you.
What is it?
Yes.
Ambition.
And so, the first 3.5 degrees of the middle decade is where the moon is and where is the fear. And this was a major test to pass in order to enter the path of accepted discipleship. Just imagine that. Now, you see, I have done some research into the minor initiations. And through DK only directly telling us of the 4 minor initiation of the astral plane, right? In esoteric astrology. But he is talking about different series of minor initiation even prior to the path at our very early life, okay? And this initiation, this test, at the middle point between the first and second initiation, where she had to pass the test of fear for the loved ones. She loved them so much, she was always afraid what's going to happen to them. That's why she was also financially responsible for them. She felt the responsibility, okay? So the fear was blockage for her to enter the path of accepted discipleship. And in my understanding, this correlates with one of the minor initiations of the astral plane. Okay, now, we all know that second initiation is under 6th ray, right? The major issue is glamour, detachment, desire. And, you know, she was struggling with such a powerful forces of the 6th ray here. You see, I am not going to go into detail of this, but I'm just going to hint you how we interpret the rays with astrology. Now, you see, she is Sun in Aries, but she's got 6th ray personality, okay? Now we could say, okay, the ruler of Aries is Mars. Yes, it transmits the 6th ray. That is one, but it's, if you look at any other chart, it does not work, just like simply like that, okay? So the another thing is that we need to interpret together the Aries energy with the personality ray, which is the 6th ray, okay? And we need to take into consideration mainly the exoteric ruler of the Aries, which happened to be the very significant planet in relation to the test of the moon in Scorpio, where it is in detriment in Taurus, a lessening of the desire nature is one of its interpretation, okay? And it's directly related to that test of fear in Scorpio. Now, the Aries sun and 6 ray personality have to be interpreted together with the ruler. And there we find another emphasis of the fiery dedication and commitment, devotion to a cause. 11th house, sun in Aries, a cause. It means she was very devoted to the teaching, to the work of the master, to the hierarchy. 6 ray devotion. Very ardent, undeflectable persistence. This is Aries sun, 6 ray personality. Interpreted together. A one-pointed effect to achieve a goal is supported by the sun placement in the Sagittarian decade of the one-pointed pledged disciple. 6 ray Sagittarius. Despite, danger or adversity, fiery intensity, Mars 6 ray in relation to Scorpio, intensity, Aries. Burning with devotion. She was on a burning ground. Burning ground, we are told, we experience prior to each initiation. And she was taking one, but a minor one, not the major one. Okay? But very important for a pledged disciple to take. But you see, the placement of that Mars together with Venus, it's driving the energy into subjective inner levels. She could not express what she was as a soul on inner planes where she spent a lot of times outside in her physical life, especially with the people she loved. There was her soul love and light not penetrating. It was all subjective. Then, when we want to interpret the ascending sign of Cancer, she was 2nd ray soul with Cancer rising. Cancer is very, on one way, it is a physical, plain physical body. She had a big problem also with her physical body. Focus of energy is there. And, we have, it's not easy to estimate by the ascending sign, the soul ray. As you can see, through Cancer, we have a 3rd and 7th ray being transmitted, okay? And if we look at the ruler of the moon, if we want to go that line, we come to the Scorpio, which transmit the 4th ray. And if we go to the line of Neptune, we find 4th ray. So, there is not a direct showing to us that it is a 2nd ray soul with the Cancer rising, for example. But without that Cancer, we would miss the major emphasis of her life. Family, children, the moon, ruler in the 5th house. One of the interpretation of the 5th house, okay? And so the 2nd ray with Cancer, we get protectiveness, lovingly expressed, empathy, love of home, family, gentleness. And DK emphasized this, she had a very gentle nature. Okay? Loyalty. That is also 6th ray quality. Neptune as an esoteric ruler of Cancer. Sensitivity, receptivity, kindness, especially to the near ones. Fear, insecurity, together with the Sun conjunct Chiron. Physical, emotional vulnerability. DK was telling her not to let her physical body to take over the control of her life. Okay? Physical body is a number of things. It's the moon, is the Cancer, okay? It's the mass. You know, I have a lot of indicators of the sixth ray, and which, you know, it would take me sometimes to get through because it's very detailed, where I included a lot of midpoints, and particularly the midpoint of Mars-Neptune. We dealt already with Mars-Neptune as a major transmitters of the sixth ray, but when I have a chart of such an emphasis of the sixth ray, and I know these two planets transmitted, I want to know where is that midpoint of Mars-Neptune falling here. And where do you think it's falling? It's falling at the, around 15 degrees of Taurus, which is squaring the Uranus with its exaltation towards the test in Scorpio. It is the planet of detachment and fifth ray mental energy. So that is significant because both are together at the midpoint of the ascendant. Her sole purpose, okay? I don't want to go into these details, but you see, we would say immediately, oh, well, with such a strong sixth ray, you know, why we don't have any aspect between Neptune and Mars? Because they are here both in Taurus, but there is not a direct aspect, which with such a power we would expect to find, usually, okay? But we find it through many, many other points here, you know? There is so much link between the Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio energies through the Mars-Neptune energies. So, and when we're talking about a veiling, okay, we have a different veiling, as I was talking to a few people at our discussion, that, you know, we have moon veiling, Vulcan, Neptune, Uranus. Here, its emphasis in her life, major Neptune going towards Uranus veiling. As an esoteric ruler of Virgo, through, it's the one sign which transmits the sixth ray. Moon is very important because it's the esoteric ruler, but it does not veil here Vulcan as much as it veils Neptune because of her powerful psychic nature. Okay? Now, okay, I should really mention, you know, that all of you, I'm sure, know that the sign which transmit the sixth ray are Pisces, where she has Saturn, okay? Virgo, the sign opposite. As you see, there is no planet beside her node polarities, which are very significant as in relation to her karma and particularly to this incarnation, with a strong emphasis also of the 6-12 polarity through the nodal points and through the dharmic points across the IC and MC, okay? So if we look what she had in Pisces, you know, Saturn. In Virgo, we find the South Node, and it's in Sagittarius, it's her soul ruler, second ray soul planet. That is a very significant placement in relation to the transmission of the 2-6 energies. Okay? But if we went by just that, you know, we would not arrive at the right judgment here. I would point out that the relationship between Neptune and Jupiter represents creative imagination. Imagination, creativity, expanded imagination. These two planets are in quincunx aspect, 150-degree aspect, okay? And this creative imagination in relation to building of her garden was the most significant energy. And because she was also dealing as a pledged disciple with a vision, ajna, visualization, we have a powerful emphasis of two signs of vision: Taurus, sign of vision, and Sagittarius, sign of vision. They are both powerfully emphasized, and she needed these energies through the illumination of the mind and expanding of the vision of the Sagittarius. She was narrowing with the sixth ray. You know, sixth ray narrow the detail, goes on a detail. That's why we find the fanatism, because there is no wider vision of things. It narrows the vision on one moment, on one point. You see? So together, you know, it's all adding up with the energies here of such a powerful six-ray force. You see, one more thing. We have two very powerful esoteric placements in this chart. Mercury in Aries is an esoteric ruler placed in Aries, very powerful. Venus in Gemini, esoteric ruler placed in its own sign. But we must not assume that because she had this powerful placement, that she is only using these energies on a higher soul level. Oh, no, no. No, no, no. Actually, DK is hinting in many places that we start to use the esoteric rulers pretty much around the accepted discipleship. Okay? We need to always focus, even in relation to the ruler of the ascendant first, on the exoteric rulership. There is a gradual process going towards the esoteric rulership. Okay? So, what he is telling me, her mind is restless. Venus in Gemini, she talked too much. She liked to talk. She was discussing with Alice Bailey all her problem all the time. At one point, he's telling her, no more talk. I want you to act. Okay? And in a progression, there is aspect between Mercury and Mars. Mercury, don't talk, act. Mars. Okay? So as a result of the glamour, also, her mind was restless, shifting, but the glamour itself is the result of potent emotional thinking. That is the kama manas. He uses the word emotional thinking for the kama manas. And of ongoing attentiveness to the circumstances of physical plane life. That's where was her focus. If she put the same attentiveness, he's telling her, and potency of thought away from her circumstances to the things of the soul, she will be set free. Okay? If we want to know in the chart how the mind works, and I'm not going to go into it because it's very long and detailed, is to look what is Mercury and Venus doing and what are their relationship. And to investigate this in this chart, it's very revelatory and understanding of her processes, how her mind was working, okay? And I have maybe 2 pages of this, so, you know, I don't want to just extract something randomly. Um, but, you know, she had a fifth ray analytical mind. Okay? That was a very good, helpful point here if we're dealing with all these desires and glamours and shifting mind and restlessness, okay? Because she had a great knowledge which she accumulated over many lives. But she had to bring this knowledge out, use it. It was all up there, in a place. He called her, she was wise. In many ways, she was wise, Taurus, right? And both Mercury and Venus carry on one of their level fifth ray. Okay? Saturn can be also considered as a, but you see how I read this placement, Saturn in Pisces? Mind, desire. Desire, mind. In one interpretation. You see, this was supposed to be a finalizing cycle. This incarnation, Pisces. Pisces, strong Neptune. She had to finalize achievement of freedom of the hold of the powerful six-ray forces here. And she was supposed to initiate, Aries, a new cycle. So on one side, she was closing something, but on the other side, she was initiating. Even to pass the test of fear and enter the accepted discipleship took her more than 2 years. Okay? And this is under guidance of a master. If we look at ourselves, we can consider not 2 years, but 2 lives. The first decade, you know, we can interpret the decades and so on. I will just give you that the decades can be, they have the exoteric rulers and esoteric rulers. And the esoteric ruler of the first decade of Cancer is ruled by Venus. And here is the emergence of the Son of Mind, okay, of the illuminative mind. This was the sole purpose. And use that light to guide it by the mind, the light of the soul, point it to the astral plane and eliminate, dissipate the glamour. This passion, her second word, is the key word of second degree. He mainly used the word detachment for the disciples, but in her case, because of the powerful desire focus here, he used the word dispassion. Okay? He says, your mind nature will come increasingly into control and become the transmitter of illumination as you hold steady upon the way. Okay? Oh, I got in front of myself where I have now, I already talked about the fear. The moon is the seed of debilitated fear in the chart, wherever we find it. And so is Saturn. Saturn in Pisces is not a fear through the emotional involvement.
Elena, do you think that Saturn-Venus
Yeah.
contributes to the fifth ray mind?
Yes, definitely, because they are both mental energies. We have a fifth ray, third ray, you see. It's interesting that he told her, you are analytical, but you're not discriminative. Okay? That is telling us a lot of information also. Anybody who has a direct contact between Saturn and Venus has a powerful mental focus, and she had. She worked upon the mental planes. Okay?
But not upon the fourth level, apparently.
You see, I am coming to that, Michael. This is my point, to try to jump through the things in order to cover what I want to cover. What I want to say when he's talking to her, that she was to overcome fear, and this is his words, those vile children of fear. You see, that's why I say DK never uses any word without a specific, information giving us that the moon of the fear test is dealing with children. And the vile children of fear, he is naming nervousness, particularly Gemini there, Venus, worry, fourth ray Taurus particularly, and that instant jumping to conclusion, Aries. You see how he is picking up on these energies which are the children of fear, her test of entry upon the path of accepted discipleship, which are dire and full of disaster. That's his words. She was also tying herself to many by thought forms of depression and suspicion. Suspicion. Scorpio. A major wild child of Scorpio. Suspicion. Okay? Okay, I'm skipping. How much I have?
6 minutes.
My God.
Okay, 7.
I don't know what to do. You see the mental energies, Saturn, Uranus across the 3-9 polarity, lower, higher mind. She was building the Antakarana from the lower to higher mind. And you see, when I'm going to jump from one thing to the other now, but Uranus ruled the manasic permanent atom. When we talk about the mantra of Aries, I come forth and from the plane of mind I rule. We're thinking, what plane, the clue which given to me was when he's talking to her, I want you to build an ivory tower in your garden with its summit reaching to and he described the energies like the fifth kingdom. She has to work in the fifth kingdom. And what is the summit? MC. And when he's telling her this, about build this tower of summit, by progression what is happening? Her second solar Saturn return, transiting Saturn, going over her MC. I said, what more do we want even for the rectification of the chart itself? And when I'm thinking, okay, on the astrological chart is the Dharma, is the highest point in the chart, is the summit of the chart, astrologically. What is the summit of the mental plane? Is the atomic subplane. And there we find the higher mind or abstract mind, the Uranian mind, but they work together with the Saturn here. You see, even there, I see them almost reversed. I said, why this one is not there, this one there? Because she was working also with the Saturn, a lower and higher mind, also with the Mercury. You see here? That is the powerful placement of the higher mental plane. That's why, you know, I was so pleased with this chart because it picks everything what he says in such a detail, really. Now, this I should say, on page 33, DINA 2, when he talks to his disciples in September 1943, DK said this about CDP. When she passed on the inner planes, she was taking care of the children of the world. Children. You see the relationship to her children emphasized even after she passed over? And these are his words. CDP is working continuously with the children of the world, including those who died victims of the horrors of war. Preserving inviolate the affiliation with my ashram, but working in a group composed of disciples upon all the race and whose personalities in their last incarnation were upon all the many nationalities. They are doing what they can and must be done to salvage Pisces. Salvage, you see, the consciousness of the children and to preserve them from complete disintegration. Okay? So, another important thing is that, you see, when a highly developed soul passes over, it flashes through the astral plane without stop. It just goes up. Not her. He is telling us that she had to stop at astral plane to discard some of the holding qualities before she can work upon the mental plane and in his ashram. And in relation to our timing, it was approximately 3 years. Okay?
3 years from the time she died?
No. How long it took her to pass through the astral plane. Well, you know, I don't know what to do.
Summarize.
You know what I would like to finish with? The 6th ray physical body. Because, you know, it's so rare. It's so rare placement, and he emphasized that, okay? There was another disciple who had a 6th ray physical body, but unfortunately we have no astrological information, so I couldn't even check if we would find any similarities in any way of energies or rays in this, well, maybe rays, yes, because it's 6th ray, but you know, the signs, how. So anyway, you know, what we need to, first of all, what we need to take into consideration that when we are talking about a ray of physical body, we are talking the brain also. That the brain, her brain, was conditioned by the 6th ray. Now, that I don't get this right, wrong, I'm going to follow what I've written for myself here, and what the DK say to her. And this is what he say. It makes your physical body, and therefore her brain, the servant of her astral body. Okay? Both are on 6th rays. And that also makes her astral buddhic. Now we have a number of hints here. The brain astrologically can be ruled by Saturn. in Pisces. It's a classic example here of the brain under the influence of the astral body. The brain, in this case, is responsive to the information via the senses from the astral plane, okay? And also the Saturn sextile to Neptune. Actually, there is a very significant triangle between Neptune, Jupiter, and Saturn for a number of interpretation of energies in this disciple. You know, in respect to Cancer, which is also a physical body, and it is coming under the rulership of the sixth ray, okay? In relation to the form Mother, Moon, emotion, sensitivity, God of water, Neptune, and intuition, okay? Moon in Pisces, decanate of Scorpio, okay? There is a, you know, we find a strong relation between the Scorpio moon, Saturn in Pisces, between Neptune in Taurus and moon, where the moon has its exaltation. We need to take all these placements into consideration. Now, what I want to focus is mainly the brain, you see. The brain is largely conditioned by three endocrine glands: the pituitary, the pineal, and the carotid gland. And for each of us, one of these glands in a particular incarnation becomes emphasized through the brain. Brain ray energy, okay? Now, because they are the you know, use the physical brain as a receiving and transmitting agent. And it is this which brought into creative activity and thus under the control of the disciple in training. You know, this energy of this, one of these glands in relation to the brain become emphasized and become the transmitter in connection to the center and which it is aligned to, like the pineal, the head, the pituitary, the ajna, and the carotid, the alta major. In her case, it's absolutely clear. It was the pituitary gland because that's why she built the garden, because she had to develop the ajna, the vision, the wider vision, and the controlling, directing energy of that ajna, okay? So the brain, it is the pituitary gland in relation to the ajna center. I want to go to discuss this sixth ray, the sixth ray.
This is a moment for Saturn to relate to Mars.
Because you see, the ajna is primarily collected also with the throat center.
Well, you know, maybe.
Never mind.
You know what? It's very, very well done.
Thank you.
It depends on where it would lead, because we really have now less than 10 minutes.
I am sorry for taking.
But it's you know, obviously hours are needed here.
Yes, I know.
Can I just put this thing on and not, you know, just hold it and turn the switch on? Turn the switch on, that is helpful. Test, test.
Test.
This has, oh yeah, I'm green. Maybe some of you would like to talk to Elena about this very careful examination of this particular disciple. I think, you know, you can understand, you can read these words the Tibetan has written in a casual, maybe somewhat superficial, interested manner. or you can become an astrological, rheological detective, like Elena is here, and read these things with such depth that more than is said begins to appear, or at least all the implications begin to appear. So, you know, you get the sense that she's really onto something here in laying out the hidden factors behind DK's thought as it relates to the astrological chart and array chart. So this comes from a very careful work, very careful work, you know, for which we're appreciative. If fifth array work, among other things. So if you want to talk to Elena further about this particular disciple, then just corner her, and she won't allow you to leave. You just, you know, you're going to hear all about it. So very good, and you know, and I would just encourage Elena to continue her work on the disciples. We were both working on it together from different angles, but you know, she's very persistent, and I think there's an awful lot to share with the Bailey group along this line. By the way, I discovered that the other person with the sixth ray physical body.
I have it there. I want you to talk about it because he was also building the tower.
Were you going to mention that he has a Sun-Mars conjunction? I just wondered.
Never mind.
Well, okay, you know, because Mars is the physical body too.
Yes, I know. I did say that.
You sense we have a past. I don't know, you know.
Okay, I appreciate you add some comments because
Thank you,
I
thank
missed
you.
so many things.
No, it's all
Are
right.
there any notes to indicate whether this woman had an obese, heavy body that's lymphatic and, prone
I'm
She was she with a sixth ray. In my view, I don't know the information directly. We don't have it, but from the chat, my impression was a rather bulky body. Okay.
we don't know, but it would be nice to trace her on the internet if there's any way to do it. Any kind of, you know, maybe. We did some traces on various people and came up with a little bit short of a dead end. It's not, in other words, almost there. We didn't do any trace on this particular woman, but we could try that. It would be important. Now, all I'm going to do is just allow us to bring our day thus far. Wait, you unplugged me, Elena. Yes, yes. Unplugged, unhinged, what can I say, you know? You got to watch her. We're coming back tonight for some very interesting material. Peter, what is the name of your talk tonight?
I'm sorry, it's not quite in my mind, but I'm going to talk about the lotus, the causal body, the solar lotus, and the light of the soul.
Okay. So, you know, between Nicholas, who is offering the title called Who Knows, and Peter, who forgot his title, we're off to a spontaneous start. David will be speaking. David, what is your title?
Okay, on magnetic astronomy and astrology.
Magnetic astronomy and astrology. Okay. So we're going to get maybe some of the, yes, Peter?
Lots of graphics, so I'm,
Okay.
yeah, I'm not
Lots of
at a
graphics.
loss.
So, you know, bring your head tonight. We'll be going deep, okay? We'll be going deep. So drink lots of tea or coffee, you know, and come back wired. And we'll be working from 7 o'clock until approximately 10 o'clock. Not bad. We used to take the PhD program till 11. Well, you know, they were all, those are the old days, the good old days. Keith remembers well, and some of us do. We started at 7 a.m. Okay, well, don't worry about it now. We're not quite finished. We're going to have a little meditation. So just, okay? Everybody calm down. All right, so let's just have a review. 5-minute review. So here we are together in the soul field, with our minds rather more illumined, perhaps, on certain things than when we began today. We have begun with certain generalities about those heavenly bodies which carried the sixth ray, namely Mars, Neptune, and of course implied Venus. We have suggested that it is wise to investigate Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces for their placements in your chart, because we all have this ray active due to our transit through the Piscean age and our conditioning. We have examined the larger integrative patterns which bring various energies into coherent relationships and contribute to the harmonious union which must be achieved within the personality vehicles and also in relation to the soul. We have looked at the psychological dimensions of the humble yet powerful sextile, its integrated potentials, and it's also its hidden projective dynamics, seeing how important it is to bring about reconciliation even between factors that at first appear superficially harmonious with no problem. And we have applied, or attempt to apply, some of this learning to the tangible life of discipleship, wherein each one has a psycho-spiritual problem which must be solved in order to progress to the next point of achievement. We all have that. We all have our breakthrough points which will not be achieved unless we eliminate certain patterns which are not constructive, are not harmonious, and are, in fact, obstructive. We all have it. Even the fifth degree initiate in his own way has it when facing the next step. So we've seen a certain practicality here, how these understandings of the sixth ray at work, leading us to a burning ground, which we'll discuss tomorrow, can be used in helping us all progress toward the fulfillment of our vision, without which revelation cannot come. So tonight, when you go home, back, think about the relevance of these things to your life, because you've had a chance to discuss these things with the astrological team. You've had a chance to take a look at the source of your ideals, whether they are personality ideals particularly, or whether they really are soul ideals, soul commitments. Examine yourself from this point of view And tomorrow, be ready to discuss how to step upon the burning ground, or recognize that you are upon the burning ground, and how to stay there until the festival of burning is concluded with its implications of release into a new dimension of consciousness and being. We want to now simply do that very short mantram of the new group of world servers, the 5 o'clock mantram. We're just about there. We are there. May the power of the one life. And we will use the word we, indicating the group consciousness. May the power of the one life pour through the group of all true servers. May the love of the one soul characterize the lives of all who seek to aid the great ones. May we fulfill our part in the one work through self-forgetfulness, harmlessness, and right speech. So we want to thank all those who have been attending our live streaming of this workshop from wherever you may be in the world, and do come back in a couple of hours because we have some very interesting things to move into. You have a couple of hours now to have your dinner, and don't go to sleep. Come back, okay? Just debrief. Yes, and there's an announcement. Time is 7 o'clock. Coming back, and the not dance group. Oh, oh yes, and I did. Yes, actually, again, Jan's the group that would like some of the foundations of astrology and how to quickly look in an illuminating way at the chart. Meet here at 7 o'clock, right outside. We're meeting outside this door, and then going there. We announced that earlier. And then you're going to the main room off the Choya.
First room as you walk in the library, the very first library, the lobby, the very first room is called the boardroom. The very first room as you walk into the library
To the right. Okay, okay. But I'll tell you what, meet here. Meet here. If you're going with Jan. All right. Have a nice dinner.